April here.
Jason here.
We are Dallas wedding photographers, and we have shot over 100 weddings in this area and in the Houston area, and also like
everywhere. We like weddings. We like shooting pictures, taking pictures, and we love love. But today we're going to be going over a YouTube about if maybe you're a newer photographer, how to plan for your first wedding.
Yeah.
Just because being proactive is huge when it comes to weddings.
And it can be kind of intimidating if this is your first wedding. That's a lot of pressure. We've been there.
So, but before we talk about that, if you don't mind maybe pausing this video and checking out, there's a link below for our free masterclass. And go ahead.
Okay, so in the masterclass, we just kind of want to help whoever's just newer at photography, or maybe you've already been shooting a while like we had, but we were still kind of getting things wrong in camera. So there's just different lighting scenarios we can help with. We're going to teach the exposure triangle and then some composition.
Yes, so we would love it if you check that out. And then if you like that, we also have an education course. Maybe check that out too. But let's get into today's topic. All right, y'all, so it's your first wedding. It's coming up in a month. You're not exactly sure what to do, but you know you got the jitters. I know I did. So being proactive is huge. We got 8 tips today that we're going to go over. The first one is knowing your poses. Something that helped us. And I'll tell you a story. So what we were doing originally for photo shoots, weddings, whatever, and this works for everything, by the way, not just for weddings. Is we would show up to a shoot and we'd have our phone out and we'd be like, all right, so I've done this pose, so now let's go Pinterest here. Oh, I like that pose. Let's go ahead and do that one. And then sometimes we'd even be like, hey, you see this right here? Do you think you could do that? And they'd be like,
just
sure.
Doesn't look very professional.
Doesn't look very professional. And then also the more, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this too, but the more that you know and the more you're more confident you're going to be, but then you'll have more time to develop a relationship with your client. Yes. And guess what?
Huge.
If you have a relationship with your client, they're going to take better pictures because they're going to be more comfortable in front of the camera. And that is the overall goal, is client experience. Because if they have a good experience, they're going to make for good pictures.
Right.
You're taking the pictures. So we came up with what we call a posing playbook, and what we do there is basically it's just a digital book that we have, and it has all of our poses for the wedding day, for example. Bride's poses, groom's poses, groomsmen, bridesmaids, and then what we were doing at the weddings, we would still have it saved on Outlook. Right? Outlook?
Yeah, I think we had our word. And they were just like 5 different poses of each.
Just so there's probably
setting.
30 poses total maybe.
Right.
But if we were kind of like struggling, okay, wait a minute, where am I at right now? We could whip it out real quick. Oh yeah, cool. I'm doing groomsmen shots, and here's the 5. Okay, make sure I get this one. Now we have it down to where we don't have to reference it anymore. But definitely have that. Be proactive about that. The next thing is just know the churches or
venues.
I get it.
Ceremonies.
But as far as wherever the ceremony is, church, mosque, wherever, they normally will have different rules as far as if you can use the flash, how far you can go down the aisle, where exactly you can go. Some of them will let you go on the
platform,
the stage, platform. Thank you.
Well, and some brides have asked me, can you like get behind the minister while we do our first kiss? And then have him step out of the way. And I normally would never have done that unless the bride and groom request it.
Makes for a cool shot, though.
Yeah.
So know those rules. That way you're prepared. Nothing's catching you off guard. And then also another couple things that we do, and these are little bonuses. But as far as the church rules go, abide by them, one. But if you can, get in touch with the minister or whoever is officiating the ceremony, and just let them know, hey, I'm only allowed to go so far down the aisle. So if you could do me a favor and then just have, as soon as possible, no rush, but have the bride and groom face each other. Because a huge problem when you can only go down the aisle halfway is the fact that you're only getting pictures of backs. And so it gets a little awkward. Well, not awkward, but...
Well, and Jason has a very long zoom lens, so even though he can get a close-up shot of like rings and stuff, if they're not facing each other throughout the ceremony, like you said, we're only seeing the back of their heads.
Yeah, so we'll touch base with them, and then sometimes we'll touch base with the bride or groom, just to let them know before the ceremony. Yeah. But most of the times we don't, just because they don't need any added stress, and if they didn't know that, and that adds stress, we don't want to add stress. So... The other thing is know the venue.
Yeah.
We call it location scouting. It's one thing that just for funsies, we'll go on date nights, and if there's a location that we haven't checked out yet, even if it is...
bring the kids. I think in 2020 we were like, let's go to Divine Grace.
COVID times, we were all about just checking
We
them all
just
out.
asked the venue. I remember like Divine Grace, we were like, hey, can we just come tour your venue? There's a lot of brides that are looking for this venue, and you know, they'll give you a tour normally.
Yeah, they'll give you a tour. It's a great way to get to know them as well, because you may end up on their preferred vendors list, which is a bonus.
Yeah.
And then also you'll get to know the venue. That way when you do, or conversely, even if it's not a wedding and you're shooting outside at Mural Park, get to know Mural Park. That way you know all the good spots to shoot. Also that way you know where the sun is going to be, because sometimes you'll see a spot that you're like, oh, they're probably going to want this, like bride and groom, family, whatever. They'll probably want a picture in front of this. But know that it's not going to be good to take a picture in front of that until maybe 7 o'clock. So have some other ones in the background and be like, hey, we're going to go over there later. We're going to do this for now. And once the lighting is better over there, we'll go over there. So that's why location scouting is key as well.
Yeah. And did you say to show up early? I think you did.
Oh, no, I didn't. So, yeah, so show up early. Hey, we did this yesterday, and it didn't record any audio. So we're redoing it today.
Even better.
Yeah, so you're getting it twice, and it's even better.
Yeah.
But yeah, yesterday I did say, but I should mention it today. If you don't know the venue and you don't have time to show up and check it out, just show up like an hour early, and that'll be a blessing to the bride and groom, and also it promise you it will help you, because it'll get you a little less frazzled, figure out where you're going to be shooting, and have a game plan.
Yeah, and if you've never shot a wedding before, we highly recommend that you go second shoot with somebody. You know, make sure you know your equipment. So that's kind of one of my tips is like for this, like we weren't really sure. I wasn't very sure about the flash because I was a natural light photographer. I'd never really used the flash. The flash is a game changer, but I did not know what I was doing. So thankfully I had a mentor ask me to come with her to the wedding, and she showed me how to, like, you know, let's bounce this off the wall. And I was like, oh, well, that's amazing. So make sure you know your equipment, you know your settings for each segment of the day. You could even come up with a
A settings
playbook.
Yeah.
Because we are in and out of the venue all day long. We're like, okay, well, now the time of day has changed, so all this is going to change, you know. Or now we're inside a dark reception hall, so we're going to need to turn our flashes on. We're going to need to have this set right. So make sure you know your camera before the wedding day.
Yeah, and that goes along too with what I said earlier. If you're trying to figure out your camera during a shoot, it looks really unprofessional, and then also takes away from the client experience. So make sure you know your camera as much as possible before you showed up to shoot. And then I did also mean to say, have a backup camera, have a backup SD card.
Yes.
Make
sure you have two slots in here.
2 slots, especially if you're doing weddings, just because those SD cards or CF cards fail, and if they do, you want to make sure a wedding that is irreplaceable is definitely, you definitely got it documented on one. And then backup camera, just because your shutter will go out sooner or later. The shutter is basically like a transmission in a car. It's good for like 100,000 to 200,000 clicks or miles, if you will. And mine went out literally like a couple months back. Actually, Pam from The Office was at the wedding. But it went out while I was taking pictures of tables, and I literally was like, oh, I'll be right back. And then I just switched cameras out, good to go.
But if he didn't have a backup camera, he would have had to sit the rest of the wedding.
Or fake it. I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah, so I had my camera working, but he didn't have his. So.
Ooh, we saw a videographer that didn't have a backup camera, and they whipped out their cell phone. So don't be that videographer.
Don't be that person. Okay, so another tip that we have for you is to communicate with your couple. Like we talked about before, shot lists, like different things that the couple might want, like for instance, us getting behind the minister, like that stuff is super important. They've waited for this day, especially brides, you know, if they've been planning this day their whole lives, they have something in mind, even though you've shot 100 weddings like we have. I don't know. But you have what you have in mind, and they have what they have in mind. So it's really good to make sure you do a free discovery call. You know, we have a questionnaire before the wedding day, even like a couple months before the wedding day, even though we did a discovery call. We make sure we give away a free engagement session. So like Jason said, we're just building a relationship with them. We feel comfortable with them. They feel comfortable with us. Just as much as you can, communicate. And if it's like a couple weeks before the wedding, it may be a good idea to get on a call and just go over the timeline real quick. Like I've done that, and it's been very helpful because the wedding days are just chaos, right? Yes,
and when you're going over the timeline, look, the bride and the groom, it's their first time getting married, and they're not super familiar with it. So try and be as educational as possible, and let them know too, like, hey, if the planner and the bride have set maybe 15 minutes for sunset pictures, that ain't gonna fly unless they're but don't say like rudely about it. Just say, hey, I noticed we only have 15 minutes. Are you okay with maybe just like 2 or 3 poses, or did you want like 30 or 50 pictures? Oh, you do? Well, then we're probably going to want a couple of different spots, and then just kind of work with that so that if they're like, yeah, we got 30 minutes, we got an hour, then make sure they add it in so that you got the time.
Yeah, or the time of day. And a lot of times if you're planning weddings way early in the year and then the actual wedding's in December and sunset's at 5:30, they're not planning on doing a first look. Well, after the ceremony, it's dark outside. So there's not going to be any sunset pictures. Just be aware of that and educate your clients and communicate. So okay, so know your timeline. I think we kind of touched on that. Make sure once you have nailed out a really good, strong timeline for the day, I have it in my notes. Jason and I have it where you can check it off as you go the evening. So say he's over there with the groom getting ready photos and I'm with the bride. I don't know what he's gotten. So it's good to have a shared note. I mean, we have Apple phones. Raise your hand if you love Apple. So it syncs and I can see his notes like, hey, already done this. So I can look at my phone and be like, okay, boom. Now we're on to the first looks. So it really helps knowing your timeline, but having that as a backup. Also have a backup person. I know we talked a lot about having backups. Jason is my backup person. If he couldn't make it, like in October, he had an accident where he burnt his face really badly, 2nd-degree burn, so he wasn't able to make a few weddings with me, so I made sure I had a second shooter with me, not only because they were expecting one, but if you were to get hired as one shooter, that's totally fine. I would just recommend bringing somebody along just in case. You never know if something happens to you.
Yeah, if it's your first wedding, it'd be good to have an associate, an assistant, something.
Yeah, even if it's an assistant, to be like, hey, can you go help me grab my things? Like, if someone's wanting to learn photography, they can second shoot with you. But, and then last but not least, speaking of having a backup shooter, so make sure you have snacks. Make sure you rehydrate yourself. I got super dizzy last October. Thankfully, I had my friend Tracy with me as he was not there.
She had 8 weddings, and I burned my face.
And he burned his face. So I started getting super dizzy just because it was so hot outside. And thankfully, she was able to go help me get some, what is that when you get...
Rehydrated?
No, when you get nauseated, she brought me some... it's not Sprite. It's
ginger ale.
Yes, she brought me some ginger ale, and it's like I felt so much better. We did take a little mini break, and then I was fine after that. But yeah, it gets really hot, so make sure you're having a snack. And I know the wedding days are so busy, but normally a good time to do that would be probably right before the ceremony because it splits the day in half. So we've normally already shot about 4 hours. Leading up to the ceremony, so just make sure right before the ceremony you have a little snack so you don't faint.
So some easy tips for your wedding day, y'all. If it's your first time, we hope they were helpful, and thank you for spending some time with us today.
Oh, make sure comfy shoes.
Oh, right. Don't forget as far
bonus.
But wear comfy shoes because it's a long day, 8 hours, sometimes they're 14, depends, but your feet will be hurting by the end. I promise you that.
Yeah. And guys, just be confident. They chose you for a reason. Even if you're a new photographer, just show up confident and you're a couple and the whole day will go smoothly and have fun.
Heck yeah. Thanks for watching, y'all. If you got some extra time, check out our masterclass. It's free. And if you have even more time, check out our education.
All right.
Bye, y'all.